street scene.
You had to earn your water wings 1 week ago at Watkins Glen, but those who managed it, like Jacob Reed, put on an absolute clinic of driving perfection. But if that was a race which cemented in legacy just how good a driver can be, well, welcome to a circuit that Hollywood has seen over and over again. It is Willow Springs, and we are getting ourselves set for racing action here with your Lotus 79s, because Sunday racing just isn't the same without it. Welcome to those on the Global SimRacing Channel and with iRacing. My name's Shakespeare. Craig King is alongside with me for today's action. And Craig, Willow Springs is a circuit that everyone has remembered, but is one of those circuits that is a lot more difficult than what it looks like on paper.
The oldest continuous running track in America. It's got a lot of history, and it just provides some fantastic racing in the old days. And technically, these cars would probably be the last of those old days around here. So promises to have a nice bit of fun around here.
And that fun is just on the other side of this, with qualifying and the race due to happen. Let's take a look at what makes this circuit so great with your little track guide.
Welcome to Willow Springs International Raceway. As the oldest permanent road course in the U.S., it holds a particular place of distinction among American motorsports fans. The circuit is just an hour-and-a-half north of Los Angeles, and because of this, it has been used in various films and TV shows over the years. With only 9 turns over 2.5 miles, or just over 4 kilometers, you'd think it's a pretty simple affair. But the incredible camber, numerous elevation changes, and some diabolically fast corners means there's complexities here to keep drivers busy for years. The downside is that there are a few heavy braking zones throughout the lap, and most are not in a straight line. Rabbit's Ear and Turn 9 each require the driver to carry tremendous speed and aim for frighteningly late apexes. Meanwhile, the run past the Budweiser balcony all the way through the Monroe Ridge takes you on a roller coaster of rises and drops, all while dipping left and right with wild changes in banking. Sadly, there are a few series that visit the track in present day, but it stays extremely active through club racing, driver coaching, and private test days. It has long been a favorite for both fans and drivers, and once you get onto the track, it'll be easy to see why.
Willow Springs, the fastest road in the West, and we will find ourselves heading over to North America once again. But from East Coast, we head to the West Coast and down to the southwest of the United States. But a track which has so much to go for it. I look around the top of 3, 4, and 5 as the toughest section. It's known colloquially as the Omega, and it is one of the toughest places. You got to be better than a best bout machine.
Yeah, you gotta be, but you could also be the rainmaker, but there's no rain here today. But you look at 3, 4, and 5. I look at 6 into 7. Monroe Ridge to Wings Leg, as you'll see in a minute, because there's a little bit of a dip there due to the way the track and the world just bends in the dips. That can usually provide some really good side-by-side heading down into the sweeper at 8 and turn 9, but it's just the fact that you have to get there because it really tightens up when you hit that Budweiser balcony, as you call it now, the Omega. But keep an eye out Rabbit's Ear, though, Jake, because as we usually see, around the outside can usually deliver results at that corner.
It can, and we will see how critical the results are going to be when these drivers are pushing to their absolute limits. Now, in terms of the championship effort, it was an all shake-up style of race that we had last time out, but Pauli Partanen was able to increase his championship gap in the top of the F1 standings to 55 points over Togo Hisada, with Oye Samayoa in third at 147 points adrift. He's not here today to make a challenge. Jack David Spickett is fourth, ahead of Gabri Martinez in fifth, and Pepe Fuentes tied on points with Gabri in sixth. The wonderful driving of Jacob Reed had the ability to move him up into seventh position, ahead of Alberto Senao in eighth, as Dylan Freckleton would find himself ninth, and Timothy Reed would round out the top 10. But interesting were the points scored for F2.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this series is your points are scored by your fastest time in the race overall after all the laps, which means that these two at the top, they were actually in the top 5 for points overall last week, as Josephine Becker recorded 95 points and David Ricciardi recorded 90. Leander Zessen, who's currently 14th in the F2, actually finished 4th overall in terms of points, but that's his only race this weekend. So the top 2 really spread out now, and Bjorn Ackerman as well, having a nice little run as well. But you can see that one result there last week in the rain really helped Ricciardi to overtake Ackerman, and even Thomas Tuber there in 4th.
Yeah, and you got the likes of Jason Kukoviak, Martin Reisman, Andres Felipe Diaz, Simon Steinbild, Barry West, and Matthew Cochrane making up the points then as they set. We also have a team standings in play here for your F2, or for all of your drivers out there as they work into teams. It is Parmalat Racing in control of that, ahead of Fittipaldi Automotive. TVR Racing with Dylan Freckleton moves up to third, with Jib Racing fourth, and Marlboro Team Alfa Romeo in fifth. Then Krakowiak Racing Team in 6th with Jason Krakowiak, Minardi 7th, and the Ragnar Arrows Beta Racing Team is 8th. Essex John Player Team Lotus is 9th, and then the Northern Winter Racing Team with Byron Long rounds out your top 10. But as they get themselves set with qualifying currently underway, let's take an understanding of what they have to navigate through today, how long they have to do it, and how they need to win.
Well, it's going to be 35 laps here today for round 5 here at Willow Springs, and there'll be quick laps as well. And that's going to be very crucial. And it's an open setup. As we always say, the community like to help drivers with their own setups and with setups to help them. But you drive what you got. You crash out, you're done for the day. There is no spare car. Drive-through will be at 17 incident point. May see that today. Disqualification at 25. Don't see that, but with how wide you can run on the exit at turn 9, and you and I, Jake, have seen that a lot of times. I've lost count. Don't expect to not see someone just run a little bit too close to that incident limit.
Yeah, this is going to be about keep yourself between the lines. It is a circuit is very forgiving in certain corners and unforgiving in others. With qualifying underway at this wide expanse of Willow Springs, you know that there is a lot of room to navigate through, and it is Pauli Partanen who is on top of qualifying for the first time this season on a 1:03.2. Jack David Spickett, one of these drivers who's looking to try and find a time, hasn't yet set a lap, and they have those 8 minutes to set a qualifying time, and colloquially, Pepsi Man has got to make some progress. Jono Freacher up to 6th.
Jack David Spickett coming round as well. And I tell you also, a man coming round was Jacob Reed. He's going to be crossing the line as well. He was currently sitting in 4th as Jack David Spickett starts to head on down the ramp. And not a good lap for Jacob Reed, but we keep on now board with Jack David Spickett. Last time he did well here, well, not here in the series, he said he was a man possessed, as Henry Morse now is about to come across the line for his second lap. Will it be faster? It is faster, but I do wonder it does. It only puts him up to P4, back up with Jack David Spickett around the final corner. Really good line. I must say, though, Jake, I kind of prefer Coke. Is Coke okay with you?
Well, I know that for eNASCAR, Coke is absolutely wonderful to have. So at least right now, 1:03.6 from Jack David Spickett. That is 6th place. Henry Morse up into 4th position. Dylan Freckleton now up into 7th then. So working a 1:03.6 of his own, just 5,000 short then of JDS, a former champion in the 79s, trying to attack up the hill. Still doing 150 50 kilometers an hour here before reaching the top of the Omega, 110 clicks, and then back down the hill, rushing over 210 kilometers an hour before jamming on the brakes, getting ready for Monroe Ridge, up over the top of the hill, back down the other side. And the amount of downforce that you have here and the lack of natural overtaking place is going to mean that this is all about how do you manage the hot lap. This is going to be a very good qualifying track for many.
Yeah, they love this. And remember, look at the times. Only 63 seconds for some of these drivers. You see it, you blink, it's almost done. Jack David Spickett needs to find some time to get up there.
Ooh.
Jack David Spickett, find some time. Nobody can come close to the lap that Partonen set. In fact, everybody, when they were finished, just sat there in awe at the lap that Partonen did. I'll have to look back to see what the times have been like this week as Dylan Freckleton, last man to try and look for some laps. But that is one hell of a lap from Pauli Partonen, and Togo Husada is only fourth.
And you consider this, that it is blowing an absolute gale here today. It is 41 km/h winds which are coming in from the northwest. And so with that in mind, it is creating a headwind on the front stretch and a tailwind on the back stretch. Your qualifying is complete, so the field will look as follows. It is Pauli Partonen who is on the pole position, and the championship leader looking to consolidate in with this qualifying effort. Alongside him, the company will be the number 10 of Jack David Spickett, a 10th and a 5th behind in reality. Topi Kortaniemi will go from third, with Togo Husada having to start this one from fourth position. Henry Morse and, of course, Jacob Reed, the two-time iRacing Grand Prix World Tour champion, in sixth position, with Dylan Freckleton and the legend Jerno Freacher in eighth place. Timothy Reed will start this one in ninth, as Luca Bracali did well in qualifying to round out your top 10.
When we get into the second phase, Sean Langton will be there in 11th, with George Janot in 12th. JB Macedo will take 13th, with Mickey Friesen in 14th. And then it's Aaron Blair in 15th, with Nicholas Johnson 16th. Kurt Clapper will take 17th. Alexis Tapia-Vico, we saw last week, 18th. Miguel Morland will be 19th. And Jean-Francois Boscus will be 20th.
Over the page, we've got 28 drivers here today. Jason Krakowiak will be in 21st, and a little out of place is Heike 360 ES, the Porsche All-Star Javier Sanchez will be going from 22nd. Keith Herner and Kevin Parrish are on row 12, with Martin Reisman 25th, Antonio Alvarez 26th, and no time set from Daniel Gallis and Barry West. They will have to go from the back of the field today to go and charge on up through the order. So when you know that it's a relatively short run to turn number one, and it is going to be aggressive, the first real big braking zone is going to be turn 3 on the lap. Everyone is going to be fighting for room, for space, and for anything that they can get their hands on. At least right now, I would say that this is going to be a hard-fought day's worth of racing. And when you've got to go 35 times around a lap that is 63 seconds in terms of pace, this is going to be a really tough day at the office, and they are going to be heavily affected by the wind speed here today. So they're going to get picked up and blown about here around a section of the world which has seen pretty much everything in terms of this. Who's Hollywood Blockbuster then here today is going to be worked up, and you can see immediately that little feign over of, I'm going to turn all the way to the right, from Jack David Spickett. They waited for Pauli Partonen to get onto the grid. He's been lightning on the starts. We're set, green flag in the air, and we are underway. Shocker there for Jacob Reed. He goes absolutely nowhere off of the start. Jack David Spickett gets a worldie into turn number 1, and he will steal the race lead away as they head to the Rabbits here.
Great start, almost 10 miles light from Jack David Spickett to get around. Nothing big happening at the moment in terms of spin. 2 places already for Kurt Clapper and Aaron Blair in the background. Interestingly enough, Togo Husada actually gets a decent launch for a change. I know that sounds funny to talk about, but he's never one for good starts. Having a real good time here on board with Jacob Reed. He didn't have the best of starts. Down 2 already, battling side by side with Jonat Freacher.
And Freacher, a driver who commands respect as he's out there, but around the outside of turn 5 over Monroe Ridge. Oh, brilliant stuff from Jacob Reed. Gernot Fritsch had nothing for it, and they line up behind Timothy Reed here with Gord Janot and Sean Langton battling out then through turn 8. And everybody, because this is such a downforce-dependent track, the loud screams of the engine are right at the top level. Langton understeers through the middle of the corner, and he's going to get absolutely bottlenecked at this moment. 3 wide, there goes JB Massiter going through. Mickey Friesen now is going to join. One car hits the pits.
One car comes into the pits, it's Barry West. I think he doesn't have the right set on. Aaron Blair having a little bit of a mistake there, had a slide. I think may have banged wheels with Mickey Friesen, and that just goes to show the nature. A wide enough start line to go 3 wide in these cars, not wide enough for turn 1 at Castro Corner to try and go 3 wide. They went a little bit side by side, and that happened in the background. You see Jason Kraviak, having a little bit of a struggle at the start, and this is it. You've got 28 cars trying to battle for a position on a track this small and this quick. It's so tough to get going, but you have to get going quick, as we saw with Kurt Clapper, Pauli Partanen. What a rarity to see him not lead after a lap that he started on pole.
Well, this is the day that Pauli Partanen's looking at. He wants to try and charge forward. He wants to gain places. And Jacob Reed is another one who's eyeing up. Can I get back up? He's lost the 1 position to Dylan Freckleton over the course of the start. He'll be eyeing him up next as he is dealt with the likes that of Gernot Fritsch. So he's looking at Henry Morse, Togo Hisada, Topi Kortaniemi, but it is about how they've built the gaps. And Pauli Partanen with the fastest lap. Jacob Reed running through the middle of the corner of turn 2, heading over to the Omega here. Turn number 3, the first real big braking zone, and Gord Janot here is looking at how to try and say yes or no to getting by JB Massiter. Massiter's a little bit better up over the hill. Turn 4 at the highest point of the circuit is a good place to get it done if you had a bit more of a run.
You have a bit more of a run, you'd be able to do something, and I wonder if they were hearing the sounds of the Terminator beat there behind from Gord Janot there, and JB really wanted to try and pull ahead, and that's the best corner you can use to actually get some advantage on these drivers. As you see, Tapia Vico trying to get a good run on Mickey Friesen, but you have that shot through 6 and 7, ridge and wings leg, and then you can't really make it work if you're not side by side here going into the sweeper, and almost Vico taking a different line. And it's interesting because Mickey Friesen has a sports car mentality, the GTOs, the Audi GTOs, but you change that now to something with a lot of downforce, a lot of speed. Sometimes that muscle memory is just really hard to get rid of.
I have a feeling we're about to see a replay of Kevin Parrish even here at the moment, who sees himself there. So there was one car off the road, and then clipping over through at turn 3, Parrish ends up pointing the wrong way. So has to try and work himself through the shrublands and back out onto circuit. We've also had Aaron Blair hit the pits, and that was down to a spin through the final corner, and so that has certainly hurt his day. But it's too clear at the front. Topi Kortaniemi's back by 1.5 seconds almost at this stage. Pauli Partanen is going to give Jack David Spickett a race, but there's one thing to follow. There's another thing to find a place where the pass can actually be made.
And interestingly, both those drivers at the front took an off track there. Pretty sure that was at the final corner, so they don't want to be doing that too much. 17 incident points, but there's 35 laps here today, and they're already on lap 5. You don't want to be running that a bit too much. It's not the Le Mans chicane at Daytona, I apologize. So we just look at that Aaron Blair issue, by the way. The wheel banging with Mickey Friesen caused him some aero damage, and that's what caused him to retire the car. Javier Sanchez had a bit of a moment at the background as well. A little bit of chaos happening out there as we go to a replay. This was the moment of Aaron Blair just does not have the downforce, and that's always going to happen on the edge there as well. May have got a tire dipped into the gravel.
I think Jason Krakowiak's got lost out there because he was in the middle of nowhere, 3 wide into turn number 1, and he actually went up and over the back of one driver out there, and that has really caused a lot of issues out there for him. So a lot to try and unpack at the moment, but the front is calm, and that's the positive that they are running with at this moment, that there is some calm out there in the racing, and they're not having to have major battles out there on track. But it's a little bit further along where you start looking around. I think it was Javier Sanchez who he ended up cresting over the top of, trying to go through. So a lot of drama there. Sanchez now down in the pit. Togo Sada in 4th. and can't do anything of Courtney. Let's take a look at the replay.
Yeah, let's look at this replay because it looks like they went a little bit free wide there, and maybe a run of the grass there tries to open up the corner. I do wonder if Javier was thinking more of the car on the inside. He did try to open that corner, so it was a coming together of the two minds, and there was a big moment there. I thought I saw a tire go flying, but there wasn't. Thankfully, it was just going over, and that just goes to show the safety nowadays in modern F1, because they got a halo nowadays with a car going over. Back then, you had pretty vulnerable high up, and Timothy Reed is looking very vulnerable at the moment. It was actually Luca Brasali who's looking vulnerable with Timothy Reed, trying to set a move up out of turn 9.
Well, you've got to carry the speed. There's different ways you can take it, but that's not a line I'd recommend from Timothy Reed coming out to the final corner. He'll need that launch along the front stretch, and all that momentum is just stymied there for Timothy as he runs in through the Castrol corner of turn number 1. So can't get it done, can't find a way. Jacob Reed now trying to look to try and get a pass done, and is not going to be able to find that, and he takes a little bit of a wide line as Dylan Freckleton holds himself steady in 6th.
Yeah, remember, we always know who Dylan Freckleton is with the Lightning Purple, and he's looking to ride the Lightning today, and he's doing a good job. He's a little bit wide there at the top of 4. Kept it together, and this is also just a little bit of a battle with the background going side by side. That's gorgeous. Not decided they come together, and also catches the Braun GP inspired livery of Sean Langton. I think that might be on JB there, but or it might have been on Gord, sorry, I apologize. Just a little bit of a coming together there, just that moment. And look at the free wide that caused. Nicholas Johnson having a little bit of a moment, having to just back out of it. Sean Langton, sorry, was having to back out of it.
Yeah, Langton with the hit, then having to worry. Alexi Tapiavico in the middle. Nicholas Johnston got the run that was necessary, but as he runs with Papaya in terms of his colouring, this is now going to be where Alexi Tapiavico wants to try and close in and find this pass, and doesn't quite manage that in the way that it needed to be required. So holding steady through turn 2, and you're dealing with all those different vortices as you work through turn 2 and up in towards turn number 3. This is a tough track to try and get correct, especially in the windy conditions that we have, pressing up to the very zenith of the circuit, and Johnston will have help on this run of Mickey Friesen in front, the slipstream. I've never seen a track like this be so draft dependent.
I've never seen a track as well with 40-kilometer-an-hour winds to the west. For context, the start line is going northwest. So basically the whole of the track is a side wind, especially when they're going up that slow 4 into 5. And now they get a little bit of a help coming down here, but then it's straight into more side wind as Pali Partanen. They take the other way now, still trying to find his way through Jack Davis Pickett. He may need to find a little bit of a space out there to do a little bit of a plancha around and over Jack Davis Pickett, but here it's just about setting yourself up. This is the chest corner. Set yourself up for the next 2 corners if you get it right at 3 and 4.
Well, for Togo Hesada, he wants a Toppicon hello. I'll get over the top of you and move that place. He has been staying so close behind Topi Courtiniemi here. And so when you've been working out, where do I go and try and get this pass? There's 2 philosophies here. 1, I need the pass on the Glacier Racing car in front. 2, I would very much like Henry Morse to not be anywhere near me.
And 3, I would like to not be losing time to my championship rival in Pali Partanen, because Togo, you've got to feel after last week, had to use that drop week because of what happened. And this is a good run right now. That's on to the gravel. Just Courtiniemi. Oh, that's 2 moves. That's 2 moves.
Oh,
and
no!
Hesada's got around. 367.20. He keeps it going. How about a 900? No. Great save from Togo Hesada. That was a little bit naughty there from Courtiniemi.
Yeah, you want to be predictable on the straight, and he left it too late on the defence. Togo wasn't expecting it, and he goes around for his troubles. He drops down to 10th place, and we talk about championship moments. That's a big free kick to Pauli Parton as Martin Reisman now makes his pass through on Kurt Klapper, so that will move him up now into 17th place. But, oh my goodness, Togo Hesada, he will look furiously at the likes of Topi Courtiniemi.
I think at the same time, he was also trying to make sure he saved it. Remember, if you've never watched the Tokyo Hitsada point of view stream, he's strapped into that rig. He would have been having to use every bit of his upper body to get that car still standing and stationary. And remember, it's a full rim. Some of these drivers like to do the full old school rim like you see in your normal road cars. So he had a lot of control there. But 720, 2 times on the split. Oh, just look at that for Pauli Parton. A whole spin twice for Hitsada, kept it going. But what was the damage? Down in 10th.
Well, an apology has come over the radio from Topi Kortuniemi, so that then effectively puts them together. But while Pauli can put the fastest lap down on the books, he's stuck at the rabbit's ear with no way of making an attack heading to the Omega. So you take one of the 2 best overtaking opportunities out over the course of the lap here on lap 11 of 35. This becomes a case of Pauli Parton's going to need to be very inventive when he tries to work out where to pass Jack David Spickett.
Yeah, and let's look at the replay first of all. We got to talk about where to make those moves. This is Henry Morse coming in. He gets a real good view at this. Now look at this. There's the one move. His starter, he does hesitate a little bit. I wonder if he's trying to set a dummy. And then real good work there from Christian Deploy in our director with the 360 camera, just showing it. I did wonder if there was a little bit of a hesitation there from Hitsada, but also that was 2 moves, unfortunately, for Kortuniemi. Yes, that's still legal in the iRacing because it was not a reactionary move, but in the real world, you wouldn't be very liked by some drivers. Everything's all been sorted. Just a hard racing moment by the drivers, and they've shook hands.
An attempt for the outside there for Jacob Reed, but he just gets boxed out against Dylan Freckleton. So it looks like turn 1, the Castrol corner, is going to be the place where you're going to have to get it done today. Dylan now is going to have to be alert to that, because that's the first real sign of Jacob Reed saying, I'm not content with being in 6th place after winning so handsomely a week ago. I need to get back up there, and a top 5 is the bare minimum.
Yeah, what a drive from Jacob Reed last week in the wet, taking the victory by substantial margins. And this is now you look at it, where do you look at the overtake? Well, yes, you could try it into Castrol corner. There's a camber on the inside, so you have to get into that inside pretty quickly if you want to make that move. But if you don't get it done, then you're side by side going into Rabbit's Ear at 2. So this is where you have to play the percentages, because you have to make sure you get that move done. You can't do any late moves like we would see Tokyo Hitsada with late braking. And again, more hesitation from the drivers. It's not worth trying to send it in deep there at the last moment. And Jacob, well, he's starting to get a little bit frustrated. 3 seconds up the road is Henry Morse in 4th. He's already 7 seconds behind the leaders.
Well, Henry Morse has been reeling in Topi Kortuniemi over the last couple of laps, so he's keeping this one honest and thinking podium is very much possible at this moment. Over the crest then of the Omega and back down the other side, Jacob Reed watches and notes that for all this time he's been stuck behind Dylan Freckleton. Just creeping up behind once again is a ghost of the past, and it's Jarno Fritzsche.
Oh, let's not call him a ghost from the past. It's a man that he had the legendary status here in the 79s that he can come and go whenever he wants. It's like MLB. He's done his 10 years of service. He's got his golden ticket to go to any stadium, to any racetrack, to any car, whenever he wants to. And you've got to give his hand off to him. But right now, he is now forcing the issue on Jacob Reed, because Jacob needs to make this move. And I think he realizes that he's going to take to the inside, try and get this done. Forces Freckleton off that camber, gets it done, and he did it really well because he just held up. Has he opened the door a bit too much for Freckleton? This is the issue. You come through Rabbit's Ear after overtaking to turn 1, but there was enough space there. Reed was comfortable to just hold it around the outside, and now he's going to say goodbye, moi, and good night as he goes to the Omega.
Well, that was a great move, but of course Jarno Fritzsche is someone who has a fantastic legacy who sits behind at the back of this group, and it was more the fact that Jacob Reed had already passed him in this race and wouldn't have wanted him to come back at him. So to attack the best form of defence, and for Jacob Reed, he's through on Dylan Freckleton, and now he can work his way to Henry Morse. They'll have lap traffic in the form of Jason Krakowiak to try and work through in the not too distant future. So the gaps have opened themselves up a little bit now in various areas as we head closer to the halfway stage of this race. And Pauli Parton are now here as they tick on to lap 15 of 35. Just again, watching and not necessarily having much of an anything to go and say, I can get by Jack David Spickett, but this might just be gamesmanship. Timothy Reed now with the fastest lap of the race.
Well, not the Reed that we were expecting to see up there in the purple, but it's traded with Spicket. Partonen as well, they've taken it. You may have thought Toga Hisada on his own could get there, and he's pretty close to taking that fastest lap. Let's look at JB Maceda, who's trying to make a little bit of a recovery drive. Martin Reisman, who was up 7 spots, was 8 until that overtake there, so a real good move from JB. And it just goes to show you, that overtake through turn 1, you've got to set it up. And again, this is what the drivers have to go in with. So maybe you may see a driver near the end take a risk up here at the Omega to try and just make a late dive, but with the way it cambers, it's tough. So now you see the overtaking opportunities. You're at the halfway stage of the race, Jake. You're going to have to probably set it up or just have an issue like that. And Moreland, unfortunately, he felt the pressure.
Well, that's 1, but it could be 2 if Martin Reisman picks up a good run here going through the repass pass and over towards turns 8 and 9. Out there on track, we've got the 3 retirees from this race. Aaron Blair, Xavier Sanchez and Gord Janot are those who are out at this stage, with Krakowiak and West 1 lap down. Reisman here trying to work himself a pass then to get by, and at least for the moment thinks about it at turn 1, but never had the overlap to try and make it happen at the Castrol corner. Slightly back down the hill and then working up to the rabbits here. So weird to see corners, and so many of these corners 180 degrees in their parabola as they go around. I would say this is one of the few places in the world of motorsport, if you wanted to use the American mechanics of naming corners, they could have 3 separate carousels.
They could have Carousel 1, they could have Carousel Southwest, and they can have Carousel West Coast, but we're not doing that today at the moment. Remember, they could also have a 5A, a 5B, but it's the nature of this track. You can see why it's used for test drives for cars, test drive for TV shows, and of course the films, as we said. Ford versus Ferrari was here as well. Remember those famous scenes as going up Freesia looking to, I said he's not a ghost, but it'd be nice to see him wind the clock back a little bit. We haven't seen him make some moves. We've seen Kevin Parrish try to make some moves on Kurt Clapper. Got that done pretty sweetly, and he goes around the outside to hold on. Kurt's not having the day that he would like to have, already down 3.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough day for those who aren't quite getting what they want, and Kurt Clapper is one of them, down a bit, seeing Kevin Parrish move on through. Miguel Moreland has staved off the bleeding then in terms of the mistake. Martin Reisman continuing to maintain close out there at the moment, and this is going to be hard fought. And I tell you what is really hard fought at the moment, Toga Hisada really struggling to get back to Luca Bracali at this moment. So he is mired in that 10th place as Pauli Partonen again watches into turn 1 and waits with a little bit of green eye envy, thinking, oh, I just wish I'd had a better run off the start of this race.
Yeah, and he wishes he was a punk rocker with flower in his hair. However, can't really do that at the moment. You talk about Toga Hisada. It's tough on a track that the drivers are taking 64 seconds to go around. How do you carve out chunks of time? Usually we look at Hisada when he's had a mistake, he'll probably take half a second away, a lap or something. He's only able to take 2-3 tenths at a time, and he's done well to catch to the back of Luca Bracali. But a few laps ago, that gap was 2.5 seconds. He's not making the time up that he needs to get back to this. He really is in recovery mode. There's Timothy Reed. He is trying to get some more positions, but Ghana is just not one tough cookie to crack. But this is a good chance. It had to be around the outside of the sweeper. Oh, he's just holding it, but look at the washout from Freesia. Not a lot you could do when that car starts washing out because the downforce says sayonara.
All what you can do is take a big wide line through the middle of the corner, pick up the run on the exit, sit yourself underneath, go to the outside for the Castrol corner, get yourself halfway alongside along the main straight, have Journo cover off the inside and go, oh, lummy, that wasn't the way I wanted to make that one work. So Timothy Reed's going to have to go again against Journo Freesia, but all of this defending is going to help him because the moment he falls out of the range of Freckleton and Reed, the easier the pass will become.
Yeah, and the easier the path becomes, the more that you start to think that you can open your wings a little bit, pop the champagne, get that cork out the bottle, and maybe that's what he's looking for. He gets real close up. Oh, is that a bit of a slide there from Timothy coming out of Omega and into 5, losing some time at the top of the hill. I wonder if he did just either miss a gear or just get too hot and spin the tires up. But this was what we were talking about. Toga Hisada, he has done well He did not. He took out a couple tenths away from Bratielli last time by, but it's so close right now. He's just going to have to look for one of those standard overtakes. But last time he tried to make an overtake down the main straight, and we know what happened, and we know that he likes the car a little bit loose.
Well, we know that Togo Hisada will want to get by quickly. He'll be looking to that inside. He waits, but the power through the corner there for Luca Bracali. It was a case of he almost didn't lift in terms of the way he went through turn one. We know he broke, but he didn't break much. The nature as he took the corner was a wonderful trail break through the corner. So Togo Hisada is going to have to work a little bit stronger than that to try and make that happen. So that's going to be an important battleground then for that 9th position, and anything more that Togo Hisada can get. These laps are going to start ticking off really quickly, and it's almost like you're running through and you realise that about 4 balls into the Powerball, you've got nothing.
You got nothing, but you're still hoping that you got a chance to just get one and maybe the power number to hope that you get a little bit of a consolation. And this is what Hisada's looking for. He's looking for that consolation today. He knows that he's not going to get big point. He knows this could be the end. He tried being very adventurous. There was never a gap there through turn 9, but he forced the issue there on Luca, and he's going to have to do this around the outside of Castro corner. Remember the camber. This will be a very important move if he can get it done. Lots of the late breakers to Togo Hisada. The car slid a little bit, but that's a rare move around the outside of Castro corner, and Togo just shows his expertise in this Lotus 79.
That was must make from Togo Hisada, and he'll have Timothy Reed and Journo Fritzsche as the next two he'll want to chase up to. So a tough day at the office, and Journo, look how wide he was there through turn 3. He'll gather it up at turn 4, seeing the Budweiser balcony there up over the top of the crest. But for now, Timothy Reed is sitting down saying, this is what I'm capable of doing. I will sit and wait and wait and wait for the best time to go and make these passes. The gaps have opened up, so Courtney's safe now in third compared to Henry Morse. Morse is still keeping Jacob Reed at bay, who's just dropped Dylan Freckleton.
And that's big. He managed to get past Dylan Freckleton. Still some laps to go, 14 to go. So Reed could probably get into that top 5. I'm looking. He's about 5 seconds away from Torpi Courtney. Don't think he'll be getting onto the podium. We'll wait and see. Maybe get that 4th place. Gonat Fritzsche is still having to play defense out there, and just goes to show the nature of the driver. He's keeping it defensive, and he's still keeping it quick. He was 2 tenths faster than Hisada last time by. And remember, Hisada's behind these two. So the last thing these two want to start doing is scrapping where they don't need to. If they start scrapping a little bit too much, that Japanese car is flying at the moment, and I think he kind of wants to do something like Ura and start to throw some drivers out the way.
Well, it's a 104.6 last time for Hisada, a 4.4 from Reed, a 4.4 from Fritzsche, a 5.1 from Freckleton. So I think that tells you what you need at this moment, how tough of a race this has been, and that everybody inside your top 10 basically are running exactly the same times. Jack David Spickett breaks the 104s though with a 3.9 to go 6 tenths clear.
Yeah, and Harley Parton did that originally, but now Jack David Spickett has started to tighten it up. 103.966 from JDS, and he's driving really well. And is that a mistake from Fritzsche going a bit too wide? And you can see the sparks starting to fly up there, but they're catching Dylan Freckleton. This is interesting right now, because what should have been a 2-car battle, Timothy's played it calm, and playing it calm means your prize isn't just a chance for 1 spot. It's a chance for 2, and even ahead of them is Jacob Reed. He's pulled ahead, but not as much as he would like to at the moment. We could be able to get a blanket at the moment here in Willow Spring and throw 4 cars over. Let's keep it to 3 at the moment.
Well, it goes to show how difficult of a race this has been, that you're looking at just trying to build hundreds and thousands out there in terms of time, rather than tenths of a second. Fritzsche, knowing that he needs to be everything perfect now as Pauli responds back with a 3.9 of his own. These fuel tanks will be emptying and getting quicker and quicker and quicker as this race goes, and it is going to be Journo Fritzsche feigning over to that inside, but he's not going to get the move done like that, and it will actually open up the door here for Timothy Reed into turn number 2 with that shallow line through the Castrol corner. The Rabbits here is one where Timothy can watch, can read the rear wing pretty much in as broad a daylight as possible, but still not quite find a pass.
No, couldn't find a part, and I think he's now trying to put the pressure on Gunnar to try and make a mistake. And just as we come down here to turn 5, last time by, JB Mercedes had a spin, took too much of the curve, spin, caught some damage, towed the car, and he's taken a retirement as well. It just goes to show that pressure is starting to hit. And you think normally in one of these races here at the Lotus 79s, you get the same type of length in terms of time, just not in laps. But for here, you're looking at 35 laps. That's very repetitive, even for 40 minutes. That's where the fatigue starts to kick in on a track like this. And I wonder if this is what we're now starting to look at, because some of these drivers are now making those mistakes that you wouldn't expect to normally.
So, whoa, hold on, Timothy. He grabbed the curb a bit too much on the inside, and it's very weird to say you grabbed the curb at Willow Springs because there's next to none of them out here. This is old school as a circuit goes, and just catching the curb on the inside. Those curbs, they're not there to protect you. They are very much there to say, this is the limit. You jump up on these, you're going to go flying.
Yeah, we don't want to be flying through the air. At the moment, we want to keep these four wheels on the ground, use that downforce, that ground effect downforce that the cars are having, and keeping my eyes on this and keeping my eyes on that timing tower. Jack David Spickett has almost broken the toe of Pauli Parton, and that's something you don't hear a lot nowadays of a driver doing that. In fact, he's just taken the fastest lap of the race. He's now into the 103.8 with a great time from JDS, and I think we're going to have to start saying it, Jake. I think Pepsi might just do today.
Well, Jack David Spickett has got himself a gap of 9/10 of a second, but they've got 3 bits of traffic in front. Daniel Gallis, Antonio Alvarez, Keith Herner, and actually you'll put Jason Kukoviak for a second lap in as well, and very well behaved. Then over the top of the hill goes Daniel Gallis, leads them both to go through without any time lost. But Parton, it just flicks over a second. It's gone over a second now, and he is now on what is a case of diminishing returns to try and save this 1.1.
1.1 is actually growing. It keeps shrinking and growing. It's just constantly like you trying to heat up a piece of steel, because it's growing and then contracting again. And he needs to start to look for the time. But again, we talked about it. That's a lot of traffic up ahead. They, in theory, will let the drivers by when there's an opportunity. This is not what JDS wants to see, because that's 3 cars. And I'm looking, 2 of them are battling. One isn't. It's Jason Kukoviak there. But hopefully they can make some moves. Timothy Reed looking to try to make some moves as well. What can he do? In fact, his daughter almost went 3 wide. We're getting excited here, because around the outside of turn 1 for Timothy Reed, into the rabbits here he goes. They're going to take this side by side for the first 3 corners.
That could have been everything there, and Timothy Reed's finally got his number, but Zhurno's not giving this one up as he enters the Omega. Hisada thought about around the outside, that doesn't work. JB Masada is out of the race, and so he will now be another one there, but that's wide there from Zhurno Fritzsche. It opens up Togo Hisada to attack down the hill into turn 5, but he is washed out at this stage like yesterday's washing, and he will see that Hisada will look at Zhurno Fritzsche and go, I am clear. Pauli, using the lap traffic well, is closing down in the gaps. Keith Herner is the next clearance that is required out there on track, and he slows it down over to the right-hand side, allows Antonio Alvarez the pace, as Courtney now sets the fastest lap with 8 laps to go.
And that's big for championship standings, because it means that none of Hisada or Parton gets that bonus point. They've already lost the bonus point for the fastest lap. In fact, Parton got that for the qualifying. Toga Hisada still looking for a move here and going up Fritzsche, and the laps are starting to tick down. Almost! Oh, he just clipped the grass and had a little bit of a slide. Caught it, still got the momentum. Looking into 3 he goes. Late braking, it's the Togo Hisada Classic. Late braking, and thank you very much, Arigato gozaimasu. Toga Hisada gets that position.
He is someone who is known as a Jean Alesi type breaker, a last of the late breakers out there, and Zhurno Fritzsche had nothing for him. Hisada back up into 8th place, but look at what it's cost him. Time to Timothy Reed, and so 2 seconds he will have to chase down to gather that back. When you've got Freckleton and Reed on their own, you look around and see Henry Morse on his own, Courtney on his own. This has been a race where pace I think, has been the most important winner out of this one, and who's been able to hold it for these 35 laps of running. Preacher might try and come back here, but the key for Togo is he's just got to hit his lines and know that Preacher can only watch if he is flawless.
And even still, this wind has still been hitting them 37 kilometers an hour westerly. This is real desert wind out there today, and this is what they've had to battle. Sometimes going side by side gives you a little bit of a break in the wind, and that's what I think may have helped Hazard there. Same with Timothy Reed to make that move, but Gernot is not going to take this lightly. In fact, it's not a spinner. It's Timothy Reed. He's had a mistake coming down into turn 5, and Monroe takes it. And oh, Mr. President, it's not a happy birthday for you today.
Well, Timothy Reed will look at that, the front, then seeing that the back wants to see what the front looks like, and it says it looks like a spin to Misa. So for Timothy Reed, he now works out that he has dropped a couple places. He's now behind Bracali, and that is a big shame because this is completely unprompted. Down the hill, back just decides, no, you've not got grip.
Not got grip. You know what? It's that little dip. Just lifts the car up a little bit. Some air can get underneath that ground effect, and I think that just takes some of that away, and that is so hard to deal with for Timothy, all that work he's made, and it's all for naught now. Miguel Morland is, well, still battling, and these guys, they're a lap down, but they are still battling hard. It may be for 17th, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what position. You're still out there, like Barry West says, you're out there to have some fun and have some battles. Jean-Francis Boscus, Miguel Morland, Kevin Parrish, they're all battling for that 16th.
And they know that positions are going to be hard to come by late, so if they can get, oh, well, there we get one early here. Miguel Morland runs wide. Kevin Parrish has an idea on how he'll try and get this past. He'll crest the rise up through turn 4 here of the Omega, and now looking to work back down the hill. He didn't quite catch him in the right place, and so if you're not finding the right place to get the pass done, if you're not getting the right time to make it happen, Kevin Parrish here can only watch and see that Miguel Morland is making mistakes, but is not going to be able to get much. But he gets a great run here down through Repass Pass, now in towards turn 9, the final corner. Long way around for Kevin, and he is going to now get himself back into the apex. Brilliant stuff.
A long way to Tipperary, but he took the long way around and he got there. And a great move from Kevin Parrish, and that is just battling hard. It doesn't matter where you are, like we said, but now he can get his eyes on to Jean-Francis Boscus up ahead. Maybe with just 5 to go, could have a little last late lunge there to get on to Boscus as Kevin Parrish now just has to pull away from Miguel Morland, and that is important. And another man still trying to pull away, Jack David Spickett. Partonen has the fastest lap. Jack was just a tenth. In fact, it was half a tenth slower than Pauli Partonen. But the key thing is, Jake, he's in the slipstream range.
Yeah, he's in range, which is good. The bad news is he is nowhere near close enough to go and make a move. So he's got to find a couple tenths every lap on Jack David Spickett, and he needs every corner now to maximise a couple tenths, a couple hundredths here and there, and that will give you what you need. So for Pauli, he's given himself a platform of a chance here heading towards the final laps of this race. But Jack David Spickett's not the sort of character who cracks under pressure. He might have the number 10 on his car, but if you squint maybe, you will see that that 0 can be squiggled out as quick as anything.
Important, and that could be what he needs. He needs to almost be like Damon Hill with the 0 on his car and just pull ahead. And again, pass his lap again through Pauli Partonen. The gap is 3 tenths this time. And that's actually interesting because now he's in it. And I've got to feel Jack David Spickett. I need to do the math. I'll have to look at the old stat sheets. But this is going to be a while since we've seen him on the top of the podium. Is the pressure starting to cook here? I'm starting to worry now for Jack.
I look at Pauli Partonen and the helmet inspired by Mika Hakkinen that he wears at this moment in time, running down here and trying to say, I can get this pass done as late as you like. I might have held myself out at a second, try and give myself some tyre life late in this race, because the longer that you sit underneath here, Craig, the big key you're going to find, oh, what a catch there from Pauli Parton. He needed to hold on to that. Nicholas Johnston running around and finding that he was right up against the berm.
Last win for Jack David Spickett, Le Mans. When was that? That was the 28th of August, sorry. It's actually July, I can't do my maths. 28th of July last year was the last time Jack David Spickett was on top of the step for the Lotus 79. And Pauli Parton with another slide. He had pushed this car so much, but the times are starting to tick. The numbers on that lap counter are starting to drop. It's going to be one to go, and he had such the advantage, putting such the pressure on Jack, but the pressure just got flipped. It's the Uno reverse, and Pauli Parton, I don't think he's going to find a second in 65 seconds.
Well, he's got all the work to do now, and he knows that Jack David Spickett, who has done nothing wrong over the course of this race, has just got to hold himself steady. Down to 0.8 of a second, but now this final lap will require all sorts of precision now from Jack against Pauli. They know they've built a great margin over everybody else in this field, and they can only watch and only look and see that this will be about who can hold on. You can still see how hard Pauli Parton's driving for it. He wants every corner to be his. Working up over the Omega, the virtual fans in the Budweiser grandstand will be up in unison, seeing what a wonderful race we have had here from Willow Springs, now out over Monroe Ridge, and now down through Repass Pass for the final time. 8 to 9/10 of a second. Jack, you just got to hope that right foot doesn't waver as you head through the final couple of corners to turn number 9, and a wait of a very, very long time. Oh, it's Jack David Spickett who will outlast Pauli Parton and win at Willow Springs.
That's going to be a victory. That is well liked in the paddock. What a result for Jack David Spickett today. Led that from turn 1 after the launch. Pauli Parton will come home in second. Topi Kortanemi. What a quiet race for Topi today. After that moment with Toga Hissada, he'll take that P3, and Henry Morse will be in the 4th. Jacob Reed gets that 5th in at the line. Well, Dylan Freckleton did hold off Toga Hissada by 3/10, and these are battles still going. They did not see the final time. Can Kevin Parrish get around John Francis Boscus, trying to go side by side on the exit there into 5? Nothing there for a while. Miguel Morland's right behind as well, looking to find the opportunity. It's a very tight gap and almost comes together. Parrish still looking. The sweeper, the switchback. This should work because they come together. Both come together with a thing. Even everybody coming together. And actually, Nicholas Johnson is going to take the 15th position. That's a surprise. And that was just the drivers trying to take some interesting lines at the end there. It was just trying to throw each other off, and Grip said no.
Well, Jean-Francois at the final corner just sees it let go, and there's not much more that can be done except that. Here's your confirmation of result then. Jack David Spickett, 37 minutes, 33 seconds for 35 laps, and won by 9/10 over the championship leader, Pauli Parton. And Topi Kortaniemi will finish off in 3rd, ahead of Henry Morse and Jacob Reed, then in 5th place. Dylan Freckleton would be ahead of Toga Hissada, whose spin with Topi Kortaniemi is going to be one of concern for his championship efforts. Cherno Freacher is 8th, ahead of Luca Bracali and Timothy Reed.
Get into 11th. Alexia Tapia Vico, who's up 7 position. Mickey Friesen will take 12th. Sean Langton, 13th. Martin Reisman, biggest mover today, 11 places, up 14. Up to 14th, sorry. Nicholas Johnson, we just saw that at the end, takes 15th. Kurt Clapper took the 16th. Miguel Morland, 17th. Jean-Francois Boscus recovers to 18th. Kevin Parrish had to accept 19th. And then Keith Herner, last man on the lap, first man lap down, in 20th.
And then over the page again to the final runners. Everyone behind here is a lap down. So Daniel Gallis and Antonio Alvarez are here. 2 for Jason Kukoviak and Barry West. A retirement then for JB Masseter and Gord Janot, with Xavier Sanchez having his dramatic moment then with the likes of those over the top of him, and Aaron Blair out in the early stages of this race. Only 2 laps he was able to manage, but a day of tough battling that has got itself sorted. The driver who finished in 2nd place here today is stood by with Craig King. That is Pauli Partanen.
Pauli Partanen, it's not often we have to talk about not the best of launches for you today off the grid, but that looked a very tough race trying to catch up to Jack Davis Pickett, and there was not a lot of opportunity to get by him today.
Yeah, this is very hard track to overtake, just mostly because the tires will overheat very easily. There's a lot of like heavy curves with where you need little bit tire and downforce, and if you're on the dirty air, then the tires get overheated, and then you just cannot even follow. You just have to back down a little bit, and yeah, it's very hard track to overtake.
So is that a result of what happened at the end of the race? Because we saw you were starting to put fast lap after fast lap after fast lap, and you were catching up to Jack, and then with 2 to go, you just lost the rear of the car a couple times. Was that due to the tires heating up in that dirty air? Because it looked like you were putting on the pressure and the car just couldn't hold up with what you were putting.
Yeah, I actually had very oversteer setup, so it felt super nice at the start of the race, but till the end of the race, it didn't feel any good at all. But yeah, I don't think it was the dirty air, but I have an idea that I'll just back down during the middle of the race and just try to cool my tires a bit, and then I attack at the end. But yeah, JD had way too much space today so that I could have overtake him, so that didn't really work in the end. But it was a good race, and I'm super happy to be P2 anyway.
Yeah, you've got to be happy with a P2. I've got to ask the question. We mentioned it numerous times on the broadcast. The wind was 40 kilometers an hour today. I've not seen wind like that before. I know sometimes drivers in the sim say, I don't know what you're talking about. Did you feel a difference with that wind? Because most of the race, it was a lot of a side wind to you.
Yeah, actually, wind has been super difficult this week because I had 1 race before this one, and I have been on 2 practice servers, and the wind has every time blown on different direction. So it was bit of guessing game with the setup because you didn't really know what kind of setup do you need, and I think I made a bit of mistake to make the setup a bit more oversteery because I was used to a bit different kind of wind. But yeah, I think the wind was super good actually, because it was like giving you a 8 on the first corner and the second corner also. I think the hardest part was the final corner, because there it's just suddenly you just got a lot of grip to your front tires, and then your rear start to slide, so that was a bit scary, and I had a lot of front wings, so that's why I was a bit sliding on the last corner.
And before we let you go, just one last question. Of course, next week we're at Gilles Villeneuve, a classic track and technically a street track. What are you looking forward to? Because it's a lot of chicanes there and a lot of opportunity for overtakes.
Super good track. Last time we were battling with Toko, and I had very bad luck because my internet just broke down and I just lost connection, and then suddenly Toko was ahead of me and I had damage, so I don't know what happened last time, but it was good race till then, and I really like the track, so looking forward for it, and I already have setup, so I don't need to work on that, so it should be fun week.
Well, if there's anybody that likes making the setups and likes promoting the series, it is, of course, Pauli Partanen. And Pauli, thank you once again for coming to join us in the commentators' booth for the interview. Pauli Partanen, Jake, finishing second today, but gets that bonus point, well, both bonus points today for fastest lap and pole position.
Yeah, that's really critical, and so that keeps to build up the margin in the championship, and we will see more great racing action in 7 days' time when we say salut to Gilles at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. So another track which brings more of the responsibility of how do you find your overtake sorted, because when you head to a street circuit, Craig, it's not as easy as just, oh, I chuck it down the inside, and if I don't make it, I'll just take the off track.
They're called the Wall of Champions at the final chicane for a reason, because anybody can get caught out about that corner. But to get there first, you've got to go through 1, 2, 3, 4 different sorts of chicane sections there, and that run down to turn 1 is one of the most entertaining turn 1s that you will see in a Formula car with just what can happen. So the drivers, they really have their work cut out for them next week.
They certainly do, and the only place you can catch that is with us on the Global SimRacing Channel and with iRacing. From Craig King and myself, Jake Sperry, this is a day of just getting yourself any opportunity. This is where you start looking around at the mid part of the season and go, you've got to chain good races together. And the one who couldn't was Togo Hesada. It will be for Pauli Partanen, another launch up in terms of the championship, but critically, it's your day in the sunshine. Jack David Spickett.
This is iRacing.